Coming to you live from Anderson, South Carolina, this is the Jaren Sustar Show, where we teach you how to manage your money and build financial freedom through investing in real estate, all while continuing to work your job, raise your family, and while living your busy life. I'm your host, Jaren Sustar, and I personally want to thank you guys for tuning in today. So I had something crazy happen. It's actually not that crazy. If you've been in the real estate investing game at any time, you know that these types of conversations are going to happen. But I've been working this deal for this property that I sent a mailer to. The lady called me back. She said, "Hey, I want you to come look at my house." I went and saw her house, and I was there for like an hour and a half. I had my son with me. We hung out. They were great, and I've been following up with her. And I sent her a text the other day. I'd been calling her, texting her, and I sent her a text the other day, just saying, "Hey, I followed up. I know I'd offered you at 165, which I offered her this in person. Okay. Followed up with a text. Hey, I offered you 165. Wanted to see if you guys are ready to sell." And this is the message I
Brief
got back.
message
Check it out.
is, he will not sell you this house at 165,000, and you're gonna make 300 or 400,000 off of it. No.
Why is she so mad? Why is she so mad? We were buddies. I was at her house. We were buddies. Here's my theory. Okay. I think she's elderly, and I was very kind with them, very gentle, very upfront, very honest, like I always am. And I'm wondering if she forgot who I was. That's the only theory. Is when I texted her, she thought I was just a random person sending her a text, and then she forgot that I was at her house. That's the only thing I can think of, because we were having an absolute great time together. She wasn't upset when I made the offer. Listen to that one more time. Just listen to how angry she is in this message.
He will not sell you this house at 165,000, and you're gonna make 300 or 400,000 off of it. No.
No. She says no. She emphasized that you're not going to make $300,000, $400,000 off it. No. So let's break a couple things down real quick. All right. Number one, we were not going to make $300,000 to $400,000 on this property. As a matter of fact, we weren't even going to make $100,000 on this property. I offered her $165,000. And the ARV on this home is probably only $250,000, maybe $260,000. And that's being generous. So if I would have bought it at 165, I was actually overpaying. I really needed to get this at like 145, but I figured we could go in and keep it light on rehab. So go in, buy it at 165, call it 40K into it. It puts me at all in at 205 to 210. I was going to sell it at 250-ish. So we were only going to make $40 to $50,000 gross. So I don't know where she got this $300,000, $400,000 notion. But what happens is a lot of times you'll talk to these older folks, and then they'll go and talk with somebody, and that person will say, they're trying to rip you off. They're going to buy it. They're going to go make all this money. They don't sell it for that. You could sell it for this and make this much money. So then they get in their mind that I'm a bad person, and what I'm doing is wrong, and that they can make so much more money, and that I'm trying to rip them off. And in reality, they couldn't make that much. They needed to get rid of it. And I was very upfront with them. I come in, and this is exactly what I tell people when I'm walking through properties and they're looking to sell it. I say, all right, here's the deal. The way we're going to do it is I'll buy it in all cash. I can close as quickly as you want. You won't have any realtor fees. You won't have any closing costs. It'll be the simplest process of your life. If you need to close in 10 days, great. If you need to close in 100 days, great. We can do it, and it'll be smooth. Now, I will tell you, I have to make a profit. So if I come into your home and I don't make a profit, I will go out of business. So I have to make money. So the offer that I'm going to make you is going to be less than what you could get if you fix this up yourself and you put it and you listed it with a realtor and you put it on the market. Okay. So I'm very, very, very upfront with that. And then what I do is I show them, I go through and I say, all right, here is what I think your property is worth fixed up. Here's how much money I got to put into it. And then we have to make a profit. And so I'm willing to offer you this amount. Are you interested in taking this deal? A ton of people say yes, and we buy a lot of deals. A ton of people say no, and they go and they try to do the deal themselves. But the problem is these houses that I'm buying or that I'm looking to buy, most of them are in pretty rough shape. They're not in terrible areas, but they're in rough shape. And so if this person were to list their home on the general market, their pool of buyers is going to be ridiculously low. They're going to sit there. The house is going to sit there on the market for God knows how long. They're going to have to drop the price, and they're going to get to be about at the price that I would have bought it at. But now they're going to have to pay realtor fees and commissions and everything else. And so, people try to give us a bad rap. This lady's upset. And I'm going to win her over still, just for the record. I will come on another episode and I will have bought this property and helped them out because they need to get rid of this property. And I'm going to be the saving grace. So stay tuned. That's coming. But I think being honest and upfront with what you do and showing people the numbers is the best way to go about this business. And just know you're going to get this. I thought this was funny. I got a good laugh. My whole family, we got a great laugh out of it. I've been doing this long enough to know that this stuff happens. This is not even that bad compared to what can happen. People will cuss you out and say all kinds of stuff. But the biggest thing that you have to do as an investor, really anything in life, is you have to make sure that you're going through and you're doing the right thing. So if I was being sleazy with this lady and lying to her and really undercutting her and trying to take advantage of her, then that's wrong. But I can go to sleep at night knowing, hey, I was very transparent with her, showed her what my offer was, why I had to offer it, what I think her house is going to be worth, the profit that I think we're going to make, and how we can help her. Because the value, your value as an investor, you have to get things at a good deal, right? So you're hurting yourself by the prices that you're offering people because they're going to be lower because you've got to get a good deal, right, to make a profit. So we have to add the value elsewhere. Well, what is that value? Well, we can close quick. We can close in cash. We can remove due diligence, right? We don't have to get funding. You're not going to have realtor fees. We're going to cover all your closing costs. And so it's a smooth transaction. So you got to add that value there for those people. And when you do that, a lot of people, they appreciate it. Even if they don't buy from you, they appreciate it. And your goal is to obviously make a profit, do as many deals, but also you got to build a reputation and build a brand, because that brand and reputation is what's going to make you sustain over time. So many people in business try to take shortcuts, do the wrong thing today to get a deal done. They lie. They don't tell the full truth. They do something sketchy. They take advantage of somebody. And yeah, maybe they make a good chunk of change on the front end, but then they hurt themselves for their business on the back end, and they're just terrible people. And who wants to live life as a terrible person just to make a buck? Listen, money's empty, folks. Money does not bring joy. Money does not bring happiness. Money does not bring peace. And so, don't be that person. Do not be that person. All right. So where's the market headed here in 2025? I think it's heading up. I think there's some good things on the horizon. I was reading an article today. I'm going to try to get it pulled up from the National Association of Realtors. And it says things are looking up. If you're watching on YouTube, you should be able to see this. If you're watching live, things are looking up. Okay. So in 2024, you guys have heard me talk about this. It was the least number of homes sold in 2023 and 2024 in nearly 3 decades. So in the last 30 years, I think the home sales in 2024, the lowest the last time they had been that low was 1995. So what has that done to home prices? Well, it's started to do what they call soften the market. The market has gotten softer because homes are sitting on the market longer. The average days on market is 45 to 60 days compared to probably 15 or 20 days when things were going insane back in 2021 and 2022. And so there hasn't been a lot of inventory moving. You got to look, these people bought homes at interest rates of 2 to 3 to 4% back in 2021, 2022. Well, rates have been at 7 to 8% for the last 2.5 years. And then home prices have been high. And so they haven't been able to get into the market. So what does that mean for us moving forward? Well, people haven't been able to get in the market, so it started softening up, and it's bringing home prices down. So we still got rates that are number one, they're still high right now, but prices are starting to come down. Okay, low inventory means prices are starting to come down. Well, if we look, the feds are starting, dear God, let's hope, they're saying they're starting to finally get inflation to where it needs to be. And then if you look and see what President Trump and Elon and the whole Doge crew is trying to do with cutting cost, if we can get our inflation down as a nation, then that should have the feds lower the rates, which mortgage rates tend to trend what the Fed rates are set at. Not all the time. I think the Feds cut the rates by like 0.25 basis points, and the mortgage rates went up. This was a couple months ago, but typically the mortgage rates tend to track what the Feds are doing. And so we've had this period of high inflation, we've had this period of high home prices. Well, because the home sales have been so slow in 2023, 2024, prices are starting to come down, right? So that's step one, good news for investors. What's about to happen, step two, and you can see the NAR talking about this, are the Fed is expected to make further rate cuts in 2025 and 2026. And so as we have home prices coming down, then debt is going to get cheaper. What's going to happen is there's going to be that nice sweet spot of where, wow, prices are back to where they should be and rates are right here. This is nice. Who's it good for? Well, it's good for everybody. It's good for investors and it's good for the average home buyer. What starts to happen when those home prices lower and those rates lower? There starts to be more activity in the market. As that market starts to pick back up, what do you think happens over the next few years? 2027, 2028, 2029, 2030. What happens to the price of real estate? What happens to the activity in the real estate market? It starts to go back up. And so we are in this lull. Real estate has these different cycles, and we're in this lull right now to where home prices have been crazy, rates been crazy, home prices, the market's starting to soften, right? But we still don't have a ton of activity yet because they're still softening and rates are still high. And so the key for us as investors is the time is to hop in right now. I don't know how else plainly to say it. The time is to hop in right now, okay? Because these rates are going to drop down, and everybody who's in the market right now at a starter home with a 3% rate or a 4% rate, as soon as these rates get to 5.5%, 6%, they're going to jump. They're tired of being in these homes. The average person stays in their home, I think, 5 years or less. People are sick of being in their homes. They're ready for an upgrade, but it's hard to walk away from a 3 or 4% interest rate. We're going to entice them with 5 to 6% as the Feds start cutting rates. Prices have gone down, and the market's going to start moving again, and we're going to have huge returns. So expected year-over-year increase in 2025 of existing home sales is supposed to go from 7% to 12%. Okay, the forecast for the national median home sale price is supposed to be up 2% to 410,000. In 2026, we're supposed to go up 10 to 15% increase existing home sales. And the median home price is supposed to be 420. Employment is supposed to increase. Interest rates are supposed to be in the 6% range. Overall, the market is poised to be in a strong place over the next couple of years. And so we had a really big bullish run after COVID. And I don't think we'll see that again because rates were so low, and I don't think they're going to let rates get that low anytime in the near future. But home prices are going to go up. I love how Dave Ramsey says that. I want you guys to check this out. I love old Dave. He's one of my favorite. Check what he says to his listeners on what his thoughts are on buying real estate right now.
Bullcrap that's out there. Quit believing all this fear-mongering bullcrap that's out there. If you're thinking about buying a house and the only thing you're waiting on is you're waiting on the real estate prices to come down or the interest rates to come down, don't wait. Go buy a house right now if you're ready, because the prices aren't going to come down, and if the interest rates come down, you can just refinance. The rate is temporary. So you marry
the house, you date the rate. You marry the house, you date the rate. If we look at the history of real estate prices over time, if I were to pull up a graph right now, I'll see if I can pull one up for everybody watching. It's going to go up in value over time. Okay. It's going to go up in value over time. I'm going to share my screen for those of you looking on YouTube or watching live. Check this out. Here's a graph of median home sales over time since 1960. What does real estate do? It goes up in value. Now, The one thing I disagree with Dave on is he said real estate it's not gonna lose its value. He was alluding to, if you go listen to that episode, he was alluding to there's not gonna be a huge crash. So I think somebody was asking him about a real estate crash. What he's saying is there's not gonna be a crash. We're in a strong economic position from a lending standpoint, and there's not going to be a real estate crash. There has been a softening of the market. I showed you guys in that graph just now, to where real estate has actually come down a little bit from where it was. You guys can look here in Q4 2022 compared to today, home prices have dropped, right? But he's saying from a long standpoint, no crash in the immediate future. Real estate is going to continue to go up. And then if you look at the history of interest rates, it's like a roller coaster. They go up, down, up, down, up, down. And I think Dave says it best. He says, marry the house, not the rate. Do you know how many people have missed out on so much wealth, so much opportunity cost has been missed because from an investor standpoint, okay, I'm not even talking about, I mean, we can talk from a personal buyer too, but people just not buying real estate because of the rate. And you guys hear me say this over and over and over. From an investor standpoint, what does the rate do to us? Rate hurts cash flow, okay? And it sucks. Dude, if you run a pro forma on a $100,000 or $200,000 rental property with a 7.5% interest rate compared to a 4.5% interest rate, you lose probably $100 to $200 a month worth of cash flow. That sucks, right? And if we're buying a big portfolio worth of 15 properties, you multiply that by 15, you're missing out on some strong cash flow. I get it. I don't like it. I can't do anything about it. But what I do know is that cash flow is one metric. And what I do know is rates go up and down, up and down, up and down. And so if I can find a property that maybe it's not cash flowing strong right now because rates are killing it, but it's a solid property that I'm getting at a discount that I can fix up through rehab and add value, and it's going to appreciate over time because it's in a good market while tenants pay off my debt. If I do not buy that property strictly because the cash flow is $150 to $200 less than it would be if my interest rate was 3 points lower, that is asinine. You are robbing your future self from so much wealth when you do stupid stuff like that. That is ignorant. Do not be so dumb to do that. Guys, zoom out. Use your brain. Use the logical part of your brain. Get rid of the emotion and say, if I own this asset, it is going to go up in value over time. How many things in life can you buy that actually go up in value over time? Not many. Actually, 99% of people never buy something that does that. Do you know that? 99% of people never buy something that pays them back. That's why it's called the 1%ers. Only the 1% of people go and buy assets that pay them back and increase in value over time. And so you're telling me you could go control a $200,000 home that in 5 years statistically is going to be worth $275,000 to $300,000 while tenants have paid off your debt. You could have done that, but you didn't pull the trigger because the cash flow was $200 less bucks than you wanted per month. Don't go to Costco one time per month. Drop your Costco trip down and save the 200 months there. You're not going to buy this appreciating asset that a tenant's paying off your debt because of $200 a month in cash flow? Do you hear how stupid that is? Do you hear how stupid that is? Cut $200 elsewhere. I remember when I first started buying real estate, and I'm not saying that this is for everybody. You need to have a strong income coming in and a strong financial background. But dude, I didn't care. My first Airbnb, I didn't even care if I paid money in it every month. If it didn't even break even and it lost money, I really did not care. I said, okay, well, if I had to pay $200 a month to own this property because I'm not able to break even, 200 times 12 is $2,400 a year. I'd still rather put $2,400 per year in this Airbnb than I would the S&P 500. But nobody wants to sit down and think like that. We just want to hear people talk about cash flow. And if it doesn't, I only buy a house if it hits $300 a month in cash flow or $500 a month. That's the only way I'll buy a house. Okay, idiot, send it to me then, because I'll buy it. If you're too dumb to not capitalize on wealth over the long run, I will, because I know that eventually, if the cash flow is not where I want it to be today, I can refi down the road and get the cash flow to where I want, whether it's through rates, rates dropping or whether it's through tenants are paying off that debt. And let's say rates stay the same, I still go and refi into a lower loan amount down the road because tenants have paid down my debt and now my monthly payment's lower, which increases my cash flow. Plus, hadn't even talked about this, rents are going to go up over time. Rents have gone up pretty much every year for the last 100 years. They tend to double every 10 years. So we ain't even talked about that. Dear God, whatever your numbers say today, your rent dollars coming in are probably going to be $100 more per door in 3 to 4 years than they are today. Your cash flow could increase by $100 in 4 years, or more, depending on the market, way more, depending on the market. I'm being very generous here, just by you increasing rents. Just that your whole returns, your cash flow is going to go up just by increasing rents, not worrying about rates, not worrying about refi, nothing. And so if you start thinking like a seasoned investor, you're going to put yourself in a position to have a lot of success. I'm sorry I'm yelling at you guys today, but I'm very passionate about this because I'm sick and tired of hearing so many excuses of people delaying the wealth that's on the other side of them just saying yes and moving forward and doing things in the face of fear, in the face of fear-mongering media, in the face of political bullcrap and elections and whatever else. Just go find a good neighborhood in a B to C class area, look for an ugly house in that neighborhood, buy the freaking ugly house, fix it up, and either one, sell it for a profit or keep it in your portfolio as a rental and build wealth over time. Do that every single year of your life as many times as you can possibly handle, and do not stop. Do not stop. If you want to change your life, do exactly what I said every single year, as many times as you can for your entire existence, and you'll have more money than freaking Santa Claus. All right, let's go to Texter. Should I get a loan for real estate? Isn't debt bad? Great question. This is something that I struggled with when I first started in real estate. I had spent many years paying off bad debt. Many years paying off bad debt. So I came out of college with $65,000 in student loans, had a $2,500 wedding ring, $25,000 truck, $15,000 in credit cards. So here I am at 22, 23 years old with over $100,000 in debt behind the 8 ball, where many people start. It's not a fun place to be. And so from 2013 to 2018, my wife and I cut our expenses in our budget, lived very frugal, and paid pretty much everything outside of our necessities into paying off debt using the debt snowball, paying our smallest debt, then our next largest, our next largest, until we got all our debt off. And today I owe nobody nothing. That's too negative. That's a double negative. I don't owe anybody anything when it comes to debt, bad debt. So let me explain what's good debt, what's bad debt. Bad debt is consumer debt. It is debt on a disposable product or a depreciating product or asset. It wouldn't even be called an asset if it was depreciating, but for lack of better terms, we'll call it on a depreciating asset. So bad debt would be something like student loan debt, which one could argue that, if you are able to make more money because of your debt at student loans, it's not the worst debt in the world. Great. We can have an argument about that, but you can look at vehicle debt. Vehicles are going down in value. Credit card debt, store cars, payday loans, all of that type of debt is terrible debt. Good debt is when it's backed by a cash flowing appreciating asset like real estate. Okay. And it took me a long time to break through mentally and feel okay to buy real estate using debt, because I just spent 5 years paying off of debt. But they're two totally different things, consumer debt and real estate debt. Okay. And so when we use debt for real estate, it is going to be long-term stable debt, usually in the real estate investing world, anywhere from a 20 to 25, well, really 20 to 30-year amortization schedule. Oftentimes, you're going to have a fixed rate, okay? And you've ran your numbers in pro forma on the front end to know that the cash that you have coming in from your tenants through rent is enough to at least cover your mortgage and expenses. Now, I told you a story about me earlier, how when I first bought my Airbnb, I didn't care if I had to pay $200 to $300 into it because I knew it was such a good piece of real estate. I don't recommend everybody doing that. I had a lot of income coming in at the time. If you have a lot of income coming in at the time and you can afford to do that, great. But for the majority of us, if you're going to use debt on real estate, you're going to want it to at least break even, and ideally you want it to cash flow every month. So when after the tenants pay you rent and you pay your mortgage, taxes, insurance, maintenance, vacancy, capital expenditures, property managers, you still have money left over. Okay. That is good debt. Why? Here's why. Because we are able to come up with a very little amount of capital, or if you, by the way, I teach no capital at all, then somebody else is going to give us the money to buy the property. Okay. So we're going to get into a deal, whether we're using 20% down or we have zero money in the deal. Okay. And then we're going to get a tenant in place and they're going to pay that debt off for us. So you can control a very expensive asset like real estate worth, $200, $300, $400,000, $1 million, $2 million, have none of your own capital in the deal or very little amount of capital in the deal. And then you get a renter in place and they're going to pay all of that debt off for you while the property goes up in value. So you've bought it, you got a little bit of equity when you started buying, like when you bought it originally. Now it's going up in value. So your equity is increasing on the top end. And then your tenants are paying down your mortgage. So your equity is increasing on the low end. That spread creates your net worth. And so you may buy a property at day one that's worth $200,000 and you got $150,000 in it. So that leaves you with $50,000 in equity. Well, after year 5, that property's worth $250,000 and there's only $100,000 mortgage on the note. And that leaves you with a net worth on that particular property of $150K. So you started with $50,000. Now that spreads $150,000. Well, that increased your net worth. You do that 10 times, you're worth $1.5 million. Why do you think so many millionaires are created through real estate? It's because you can leverage and use debt, use other people's money to buy it while it goes up in value and tenants pay off your debt. It's literally the biggest cheat code known to man. I preach this all the time. There's 6 main pillars in real estate, and I call them the greatest financial concoction on the man when they're all put together. You got leverage, you got forced appreciation, which is you can buy something ugly, make it pretty, and it's worth more instantly. You got traditional appreciation, just means that the real estate goes up in value over time. You got cash flow, which means you got money coming in your pocket every month. You got number 5, tenants are paying down the debt that you use to buy the property. And number 6, you get all these tax benefits. You can do cash out refis. You can do home equity lines of credit, never pay any taxes on either of those. They're not taxed. You can do 1031 exchanges, take one property, upgrade into another property, defer your taxes. You could do accelerated depreciation. Usually you depreciate a property depending on what type of property, but residential over 27 and a half years. Well, there's loopholes to allow you to do the majority of it in 1 year. So you can get all the money that you put into the deal, if you had to put a large payment down, back through tax benefit. I mean, the sky is endless. The opportunities, the sky's the limit, and the opportunities are endless when we get into this game. And so we can't let debt hold us back and we get to write off the interest that we put on the debt. So debt is a very, very powerful tool if used strategically and used correctly. Where people get in trouble with debt, even on real estate, is when they start doing dumb loans. So people will go and they'll do a 60-day or 90-day high interest loan to get a flip done or get a project done. And then that 60 or 90 days comes up and they're not completed with the project that they were doing. And now that loan comes due and they don't have the capital. That's where people get in trouble. I personally don't have any real estate debt that's any shorter than 1 year. So all of my rental properties are on 20 to 30 year mortgages. Okay. So they're set, they're solid. They'll be paid off. And then when I do flips, if I use debt for flips, then the loan that the person gives me is good for an entire year. So it's a 365-day loan. It's usually going to be higher interest, around 12%, call it. And that can vary depending on the market. But it gives me an entire year. And I know that my average flip takes 3 to 6 months. And so I'm giving myself a huge buffer here. And the long end, I'm usually 6 months. A lot of times I'm 3 to 4 months, but then I give myself another 6 months buffer in case the project goes long. And then I can pay them back early and there's no penalty, but you have to protect yourself. Where people get in trouble with debt is they get greedy and they get risky. Listen, your goal in real estate is there's going to be upside. Real estate inherently has an upside built into it, especially you look at the U.S. now printing all this money. We've been printing money for a long time. The dollar is going to continue losing value. Real assets are just going to continue to go. They're going to continue to go up in value over time. And so we got to trust ourselves to get into this. You have to do it for your future self. It's going to absolutely change your life. And, don't let the fear of what could happen. Oh, yeah. Don't let the fear of what could happen deter you. And what I was going to say is we know real estate is going to go up in value. We have to mitigate the risk. Good investors over the long term mitigate risk. Okay. Because you're going to get the W because of real estate, but we have to keep ourselves in check. And how do we lower the downside as much as possible? You do that by securing good, long debt that serves you well, and don't get greedy with the short-term debt, and you'll protect yourself. Guys, if you haven't already, snag my free ebook. You can click the QR code. You can scan the QR code if you're watching live or if you're watching on YouTube, or if you're listening on the podcast, go down to the show notes, snag the free ebook on how to buy your first or next investment property. It's going to give you step-by-step guide on how to do it. If you guys don't have a property and you're trying to get started, great. It's going to show you what to do. Or if you have a few properties and you're having trouble scaling, it's going to break that down for you. Hey, thank you for tuning in this week. Sorry I missed the last couple weeks. I was traveling, but I'm glad to be back with you guys. Absolutely appreciate each of you.